Assalamu alaikum. On behalf of the University of Detroit Mercy Islamic Studies program, I'd like to welcome each and every one of you to tonight's Iftar dinner. As usual, we have a lot on the agenda, and there's no better MC in the show. A representative from Delta College, a professor of English, Dr. Ray Lacina.
Hi there, Assalamu alaikum. Peace be with you. What's up? I'm just going to I have to set the microphone. This is always a balancing act for me because I have to put my glasses out while holding the microphone, so give me 1 second, please. I'm really excited to be here. We've been invited to take part in Dr. Imam Saleh's gatherings for some time now, and it's always an honor because he has been so incredibly engaged, and I shouldn't jump on my intro for him later on. He's been so incredibly engaged with work like this for many, many, many years. We have been in the Midland area for 10 years, for a decade, and my wife and I are involved with interfaith dialogue up there. And Imam Saleh has always been willing to make the trek up there to support us, and to see him involved with a program like this has been incredibly exciting. And there's tremendous potential. I think this is a tremendously important project. I was looking at the Imam Saleh had shared with us the program, the formal program brochure here. And one of the things that struck me well, I broke out there a little bit. Did I do something wrong? Did I smack it with my glasses or something? If I can't see the mic, you can't hear me. Is that what it is when I take the glasses off? See, there I did it again. That's amazing. So anyhow, I was faking at that time. One of the things that really struck me is the focus is so much on the type of people that are developed by education, and I think it's tremendously important, not just for those of us in the Muslim community who are really trying to create our future leaders in America, but for Americans in general to understand that education is about more than job training. And if you read, some of the outcomes that he's identified for the program: service-minded leadership, developing global citizens, insider scholarship, which I think is remarkably powerful. So often we have people writing about, especially faith traditions, philosophies, people writing about these things who are not themselves engaged in the practice of them, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing. It gives you objectivity. It's important to have those voices in the conversation. But to have people who are embracing, practicing that tradition, teaching it, talking about it, exploring it, I think is immensely valuable. So at any rate, I'm very, very grateful to be here again. And I can't talk too much because if I were to push us past the time of the breaking of the fast, every Muslim in here would be out for my hide. So I'm just going to put my glasses back on and introduce, because they'd be so hungry and I look really delicious by the time we got around to Iftar. Our first speaker today will be Pamela Zarkowski, who is the Provost and VP of Academic Affairs at udmercy. And I'm sorry, I'm trying to go between making eye contact with all of you, and I have to get used to these glasses. Ms. Zarkowski has been, she was here, I believe, with us last year as well. She was Executive Associate Dean of UDM School of Dentistry for many, many years. What I found very interesting, her background is in dentistry. She's got a great deal of academic preparation in that field, but also let me turn the page and make sure I've got my information right. I should have, I folded these and had them in a bag all the way here. The microphone is, just 1 second. It really takes someone much more nimble than me to deal with glasses, microphone, and yeah, this is what was remarkable to me. She earned a Juris Doctorate from Wayne State University School of Law, where she also served as editor for the Wayne Law Review. So this is somebody of genuine breadth and intellect. When you see the range of interest, and especially we don't always think of the medical field and the legal profession being connected like that. So just fascinating. Please, I will stop talking. I will give you the microphone. Thank you so much. for your patience.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction. And I'm thrilled to be one of the early speakers and to give you greetings from our president, Antoine Garibaldi, and just say how thrilled I am. This is my second year attending this event. And I want to assure those who weren't here last year, as well as some of our new guests this evening, how excited the university is to have Dr. Salih working with us. Within the past year, through a process that we need to go through in academics, we approved an Islamic Studies minor. And so we're very excited in the fall. We have something called Islamic Studies, a minors fair, I should say, where we tell our students enrolled at the university about the different minors that can complement the majors that they're interested in. And so we're very excited about the fact that this fall should be very exciting in terms of an opportunity for our students to enroll in that particular program. We have some students with us here this evening, so I'm thrilled that on this beautiful Sunday they took the time to join us, as well as some faculty. And in a few minutes, you'll be hearing from our Dean of College of Liberal Arts and Education. I wanted to share with you, and I won't take too much time, to say that within the last few weeks, with Roy Finkenmein, the Dean, as well as some faculty from Liberal Arts and Education and the School of Law at the university, we had a wonderful opportunity to visit Turkey. And so I got to visit the Blue Mosque, as well as to learn so much about the history of Islamic faith and belief. And we had dinner with some wonderful families who shared with us so much about their faith, about the country, and I have to tell you, it was wonderful dialogue, and I changed because of the experience. Again, I'd like to repeat how committed we are to this program. We just named a new interim vice president for enrollment at the university. Her name is Debbie Stiefel. And I'm sharing this with you because she's responsible for coordinating much of the financial aid that we give to our students at the university. And so with the guidance of Dr. Salih, as well as the support of the president and others, we hope to start offering scholarships to those individuals who enroll in our minor program in Islamic Studies. And we will be giving some of those scholarships, inaugurating those in January of 2014. So I'm thrilled that you're all here. I look forward to a wonderful program. I had the honor of meeting our speaker, and I sincerely thank you for the invitation to break fast with you this evening. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'm now going to introduce Dean Roy Finkenbein, who's been partially introduced by Pamela already. He has been with udmercy since 1966. That would have been a terrible slip. 1996. I had it upside down, that would work. And 9 become, anyhow. He's a professor of history. He served as the chair of history in the past. He teaches African American and 19th century American history, and has published widely on the subject of the Black abolitionist movement and the publications, the writings of that movement. Last year, he'd been appointed by Governor Granholm to the Michigan Freedom Trail Commission, and he, of course, is now serving as an interim dean. Where are you, sir? Oh, there you are. I will get out of here with that.
Well, let me also say I'm thrilled to be here this evening. You've had 3 of these events over the last, year and a half, Ahmed, and they've been wonderful events. But what thrills me even more is to see the progress of the program and the interest of the program. The minor program, which, as Ahmed has said in the prospectus that is in your folder, has great hopes, but I think reasonable hopes for progressing from a minor to someday a major, and also for building graduate opportunities within our Master of Arts in Religious Studies. This is an exciting time for Islamic Studies to come along at the university, because the university and particularly the College of Liberal Arts and Education, which I still am dean of for 2 weeks, has been in the midst for the last 3 years, I think, of a lot of exploration and action in developing a range of programs that bring to the fore voices that need to be part of our academic dialogue. So for instance, in addition to Islamic studies, a program proposal in Jewish studies is going forward. We are trying to heighten our activity in Catholic studies and the opportunities there, and Christian studies generally. We have just tenured a leading scholar in Buddhist studies, rising young scholar. Beyond that, a program that we expect to grow in African American studies, and one of your fellow Jesuits, Father Tim, Tom Floric, has been talking to me at great lengths, and we've gone a good way down the road in terms of a proposal in Hispanic studies. These are just a few of the kinds of things that are going on. But why do I mention all those? I mention them because, one, it makes it an exciting place for Islamic studies to be part of a broader dialogue, religiously, culturally. One of the things that excited me when I first met Ahmed is his commitment, as Ray mentioned, to interfaith dialogue. I think the University of Detroit Mercy is a place where we already have, but we can heighten so much more, interfaith dialogue, particularly among the 3 Abrahamic traditions. This can be a place where we explore each other's faiths and where we honor each other's faiths and where we learn from each other's faiths. It's been a great ride for 2.5 years for me to get to know Ahmed and to work with him and Professor Jim Tubbs, the chair of religious studies, and others in helping to develop what is now the minor program and developing ideas for, excuse me, for more. We need, are we back far enough? There we are. Okay. We need to pin this, I guess. Just touching it is a bad idea. There we go. The program is one that is an important feature of who we are at the university, and I think it's appropriate that it be in Detroit because, as we know, Detroit for more than a century has been a place that people from the other parts of the world where Muslims have been historically in the majority seek to come to. And so the dialogue should be here, start here, the interfaith dialogue. And we're thrilled to be a part of it. And so I just say welcome and thank you for coming.
Okay, before we move into the formal presentation, then we would like to open with just a bit of prayer. So we're going to have 2 prayers offered. We will have Father Tim Hapskin. Am I saying, where are you, Father? Oh, okay. So first we'll call Sheikh Jamil. This will probably be my last time doing this, so enjoy it. I'm getting my pink slip at the end of the evening, probably. So Sheikh Jamil is going to recite for us Surah Al-Fatiha, the opening surah of the Quran.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين.
Okay, now Father Tim, okay, wonderful, will lead us in an opening prayer.
I'd just like to thank Dr. Ahmad Salih for all he's doing at UDM as a member of the Jesuit community. We are very grateful that you are starting the Islamic Studies program. One of the 3 top priorities that the Jesuits listed in our GC 34, our general congregation, was dialogue with faith. And so we really want to promote that. So thank you for all your efforts. So let us pray. So loving God, St. Ignatius, the founder of the Jesuits, said that all good gifts descend from heaven above. Catherine Macaulay said that we want to be able to use these gifts, especially at those who are most in need. And so we ask you, dear God, to bless all that we are doing this evening, recognizing that all good gifts come from you and need to be oriented in a way that gives true honor and glory to you. So we ask that as you bless this evening, as you bless the food that we will share, the community that we will share, that you help us to know how to orient all these things toward your greater glory. Amen.
All right, I'm going to introduce Imam Saleh himself now. I'm sorry, I'm moving, I put my glasses back on. Dr. James Tubbs, who is a professor and chair of religious studies, is going to say a few words. I had printed up and prepared another lengthy kind of rambling introduction. Then I was told he wanted to be introduced as Dr. James Tubbs, professor and chair of religious studies, so I'll leave it at that. So, Dr. Tubbs, there you go.
I know how introductions can get. I thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. Following up on what Tim said, it is true that all good and perfect gifts come from above, but we sometimes see them and experience them in various ways. And 2.5 years ago, a very good gift walked through the door of my office, Imam Salih. I have wanted for a long time for our university and our department to be able to have a much more robust Islamic studies presence in some form. And when Ahmed came, he had an idea of how to do that, about how to raise money to pay for it, about how to get support for it, about curriculum, all kinds of wonderful ideas that have made that dream a reality in so many ways. As you've already heard, since I was preceded by 2 more people from the university that have said everything else I could possibly say. As you've already heard, we've got the minor program already started and have already started recruiting students into that. We look forward to broadening that in other areas in the future. So what I would say is thank you so much for your support of him, for your support of our university, for your support of this program, because without all of you, it would be far less than it is, and I'm grateful for what we've got. Thank you.
Alrighty, I'm going to begin with kind of the closed biography of Imam Saleh, because I've got the facts down here that I just want to say a couple of words about him. Dr. Saleh is from South Africa originally, and he's got extensive experience working in Islamic studies there and here. He's worked in a number of capacities in the community here in the States. He's been incredibly engaged in interfaith activities both here and abroad, and I would say really a leader in the interfaith movement, especially in the region here. He has been a consistent and a very powerful voice in interfaith activities here. His academic preparation, he has a Bachelor of Arts in Arabic and Islamic Studies and 6 years of intensive seminary studies in Islamic jurisprudence, which is where he gets the Imam tagged on to the beginning of his name. He also holds, and this is what's so fascinating, a Master of Business Administration and a doctorate in business leadership, and now he's a PhD candidate in Islamic studies. And it really is the intellectual breadth that's represented in even just his academic preparation, the business degree, and not just dabbling in business, but an advanced degree in business leadership, that really says a lot about the integrative approach that Imam Saleh takes to everything he does. I first heard him speak at IAGD mosque in the Detroit area when he was regularly giving the Friday prayer over there, giving the sermon for the Friday prayer. And I can't remember the topic of the khutbah anymore, except that it was integrating a conversation of Islam and environmental studies and global peace. And when Imam Saleh would speak about each of these subjects, he would speak in the language of that subject. He would just sort of code switch, is what we call in English studies, when you speak in one language. And I did it with my glasses again. There's something in these. I'm being irradiated when I wear them, I'm afraid. My eyes will glow in the dark tonight. But he code switching. He can speak comfortably in multiple languages, but he doesn't bifurcate those. He doesn't separate those fields out. He brings them together. He integrates them in a very holistic, very powerful way. And I think it's a beautiful thing. I'm always excited when I think about this program taking place or being born at U of D Mercy, because it's that same, you've heard the representatives from the university talking about their desire to bring in voices from these other faiths. And again, it's not just sort of dabbling in relaxed, loose conversations. We sit around and we do a couple of presentations and we all go home. You're going to have people who are deeply and profoundly engaged in the study of their faith, interacting and engaging each other at a very deep level. So I think it is the type of project that is, I think, very representative of the type of work Imam Saleh has really dedicated, certainly since I've known him these last 10 years, dedicated his life to. So with that, I will be quiet and I will pass it on to Imam Saleh.
Good evening. Assalamu alaikum, shalom alaikum, sat sri akal, namaste. I'd like to thank each and every one of you coming all the way to attend this event, and just seeing you and seeing your support is really energizing and truly wonderful. What I want is, I want all of you to take out the corporate portfolio we've prepared. It's right there in your brochure. I think it will be better to see it on there than looking at it in on the screen. Tonight we are going to, I would say, even launch the endowment for the Islamic Studies program. I think our community has reached a stage of maturity where we have gone beyond the building of mosques, and we know now, as Tariq Ramadan and many others say, that it is time for us to build institutions of higher learning. The Catholic community 100 years ago was a stereotype community, marginalized in many ways, and many times convents were attacked and cathedrals were attacked. And one way the Catholic community could bypass that and could overcome that stereotyping is by putting up not only institutions of higher learning, but some of the best in the country. You think of Notre Dame, you think of Georgetown, you think of Detroit, University of Detroit Mercy in the 60s was one of the foremost in the state. Even before University of Michigan became a great university. And the university is heading in that direction again. So we had one of the great strengths of the university is whenever we speak of the University of Detroit Mercy, I have never heard people say that is a party school. I've heard of many other people say of many other schools around that is a party school for undergraduates, but not a party school for graduates, and that has never escaped the lips of anyone. And so I think it goes to the credit of the Jesuits, it goes to the credit of everyone that we take everything seriously. The Islamic Studies program is going to be no exception. And we are going to make sure that it is very rigorous, very demanding. And when I was in Oakland, some of the people who sometimes did not like the classes were at times Muslims, because they thought this was an easy A, and then they discovered it was not. So I think it's going to be to challenge us. At the end of the day, when we say someone is a product of this program, then we can say, well, that is a person of depth. We speak of Oxford, we speak of Harvard, and many of those programs, and we look up to those programs with great respect. You can take your time to read the message that I have there on the desk of Imam Sali. I want you to turn to page 2 and look at the rich tradition. And that picture there of the I think that's the blue mosque. But that picture is very well chosen. The Muslims did not invent that architecture. We had the Byzantines, the Orthodox Church. They invented that type of dome structure. But what was unique is Sinan, one of the great Ottoman architects, introduced all the hundreds of windows into the building. Many people thought that wasn't possible. It was the first time in that area where the green concept actually came into being. So much light and not darkness within the building itself. So I think we can take any structure and just revolutionize that, bring a lot of light into that, and just make it different. We don't have to reinvent everything, but we can also be creative. So the words that stand out for the University of Detroit, and especially for our program, as Ray has done so wonderfully, service-minded leadership. That was also the title of my doctorate first dissertation. Developing global citizens, also global classrooms, and a global mindset that leads to global peace. Inside the scholarship, people are not afraid of their spirituality. One of the reasons many young ladies from the Arab world come to Catholic universities, there are many articles on that, is because they feel they can practice their faith. They can practice their faith in Catholic universities. And so the Jesuit experience, and especially with the great Pope we have now, Pope Francis, some of the wonderful things he is doing, washing the feet of a Muslim woman prisoner and another Muslim male prisoner, things that have never been done before, the humility he has. Those are some of the values that resonate with Muslims, especially if they think of the life of the Prophet, peace be with him. But we want to also empower those community members who have been disempowered. Islam has given our women a great prestige and great position, makan and makana. Unfortunately, the reality is our women do not occupy the position they should be occupying. We want to use this program to employ many women who are capable to become teachers and to become leaders of society. Later you will hear a young lady, Reem. Reem has 2 master's degrees. At the age of 19, she had a first degree. She has a second master's and doing a PhD in political science. We'd like to employ people like Reem, like Afrah, like Dr. Sachi, and prepare many other women to become professors for our program. So I think we want to empower people who have not to be empowered. I spoke to Dr. Zaid Sheikh, and he's very interested in putting a number of scholarships together for our African American Muslims. Our African American Muslims have been very marginalized in many ways, and he wants to make sure there are tons of scholarships for them. Islam has always been Islam of the middle way. If we are not part of the middle way, we are not going to survive. And wherever there's a gentle Islam and a soft Islam, we'll find that type of Islam just mushrooms and it just expands. We turn to the other page. page 3, the vision for the future. And for those who have seen Invictus, the beautiful line of the poem is, "I'm the master of my fate, the captain of my soul." I was in Hawaii about 10 years ago. At the Mosque of Hawaii, I met 2 young men who were very much into surfing. And they told me about 10 different names for different waves that come in. One is a pipe and one is a tunnel, and they had a name for every wave that came in. I was fascinated by that. I felt like surfing, but I was too scared. But if we look at the analogy of surfing, for any surfer to have a great experience, there needs to be a great wave. And so there needs to be a great market experience. Right now for Islamic studies, there are hundreds of people walking around with bachelor's degrees from other universities. There are no hanging fruits that we can just tap into and use them, put them through a master's program. We also have contacts with the Sultan's University of Brunei, and they have free scholarships and full scholarships with very generous stipends for those who want to do PhDs in Islam. Harvard University uses an entrepreneurial system of PhD. So they would give the PhD student maybe $30,000 per annum just as stipends. So they don't have to do apprenticeship or research or use any other time in assistant teaching or as teacher assistants. Brunei does a similar thing. And so here we have an opportunity from Brunei to let some of our students who are almost ready to get through a master's and then a PhD. I think that's great possible. What I loved about Dean Roy, and we're really going to miss him, but he promised to still work with us for as long as he's there. But he was so gung-ho about this. He said, no, I think if this is going to be a niche we're going to create, we are going to create that. What I want you to remember is, to build a mosque, you may need $1 million. But to build an institute of higher education, we may need minimum $10 million or $100 million. So we need to change that paradigm. Last night I was at a mosque and I was the founding member of that mosque, and they collected about 400,000 within half an hour. We Muslims are still quick to give when it comes to building a mosque. But when it comes to building these institutes of higher learning, it will demand a lot of sacrifice. It will demand a lot of vision and a lot of paradigm change. A year ago, Imam Faisal came and he coined the word Muslim Jesuits. And by that he meant you have academics, and you also have priests, and you have people who are highly spiritual. And so combining that, where you have the Jamia, and the Zawiya, the person who's at once religious is also, so the Jamia able to teach at an academic a higher level, and also a person that's deeply spiritual. That is the type of person we should cultivate in America, where we still encounter plenty of stereotype, and we can overcome that. Now, we need an Islam beyond victimization, and when our dean read this, he said, please give some more explanation for that No campaign. There's a documentary just simply called No. And in 1986, in Chile, there was a campaign for 27 days. Pinochet has been in power for 15 years, and his rule was very repressive and very brutal. And there was an outcry, a world outcry. Many of the celebrities and many others wanted him to put a stop to that. He was jailing many and imprisoning many of the academics and artists. So he gave the opposition, the academics and the artists, only 15 minutes for the next 27 days to come up with a message and get out their message. They then decided, they employed a young marketing person. This person was so effective, and he said, nothing is going to work. If we're going to use our 15 minutes to complain, if we use our 15 minutes to blame, then people are not going to take notice, and there's not enough we can fit into a 15 minutes. Put out a message for 15 minutes of how Chile would be like 20 years from now with everyone working together. I think we must envision 20, 30 years from now when Muslims have their place in society, where Muslims are in every field of endeavor and every avenue of life, they will be making their mark. And so that positive image, if we can project that, I think it will, the good news, after only 27 days and only 15 minutes, Pinochet was out. The dictator was toppled just through a very powerful marketing campaign. Use this type of program to project a positive Islam, not an Islam that blames and complains and doesn't provide alternatives. And so that is the message for Islam beyond victimization. Now, the word pontiff also means a bridge builder, and so each one of us become a pontiff in the technical sense of the word. We become a bridge builder between communities, between denominations, and between many others. But we have a lot of clash within our communities between the conservative and the ultra-conservative and others who say you are secular and the new seculars and so many others. So this should be also a bridge between those who are conservative and ultra-conservative. I have no problem with women wearing a veil. If you are in Chicago in the middle of the winter, people put on their glasses and they cover their faces with their scarves, and they look almost like women wearing a veil. So there is inconsistency or a type of double standard when we allow people in surgery to cover their faces, but suddenly women who want to cover their faces, that becomes problematic. They should have a place. The Amish have their place, the Mormons have their place, everyone should have their place. That may not be my preference, but I'm not going to I'm not going to object to that. Now, on page 4 we have celebrated faculty. We want to draw Fulbright scholars. We want to draw the scholars we've met overseas. In Qatar, we've met scholars in Brunei, in Malaysia, and so we want to get many of them to come to our campus and teach some of the best classes. We also have Dr. Munawar Haq, who's already on our staff. He's a banking expert who went into Islamic studies. He studied in Malaysia, so that vast experience, that's also going to enrich the program. I've been in contact with online learning since 2002. So I think more than a decade of online exposure, that would give us a great insight into how to teach. And I found that online teaching and learning can be more demanding, very rigorous, and I was teaching an honors class once in literature, Islamic literature. There were 15 students, and 3 of those students would constantly speak. I would never hear the other 12. But through the online experience, I could hear the voices of each and every one they were forced to contribute on a very regular basis. So online can be very demanding. You don't have to dilute it or sacrifice the quality of the learning experience. International study, and the provost and the dean will agree with us, just a trip to Turkey opens the minds of people, and so we want to expose our students to that. I can say safely that when my oldest son, Zakir, went to Turkey for the first time, when he returned, I felt he was more focused, and he made us so proud. And so if you have sons out there that you think are not focused yet, send them on a tour overseas to Turkey or somewhere for 2-3 months and see how different they are when they come back. Speakers bureaus, there are many imams in Cambridge. What the government, the UK, the British government has done, they are supporting Cambridge to turn many of the seminarians to give them master's degrees or diplomas so that they can add a great critical thinking component to whatever they've done within the seminary. And that will then help them to reduce extremism or any of the problems they have with some British youth. Now that's not only happening in Cambridge, but also the University of Johannesburg, where hundreds of seminarians are going through that program, and one of our friends, Farid Isak, is teaching that, is heading that, and they are giving master's degrees and so many other higher degrees to seminarians. Some of you may not realize that, but those in Dearborn who are doing the Ahlan wa Sahlan textbook, they can place out of 9 credits. So if they come into the University of Detroit and they're already so skilled in Arabic, and they then do the 4th class, they could have 12 credits after just one single course. If those courses are taught off-site, it is 50% off. And so it's imagine your children are going to college, they already have 15 or 30 credits in Arabic and Islamic studies. Now this is going to be a great plus for Canton and the Islamic Center of America, and many of those who are building high school campuses. We can give our children a great edge, and hopefully that will not only be in Islam and Arabic studies, but even much more. The reason for the picture of Mecca and that picture out there, Mecca has a special water which we call the Zamzam. It is ever flowing, it's been flowing for thousands of years, but if it comes back, it has a unique taste and it is very, very crystal clear, very pure. I went to Saginaw the other day and they were allowing all of us to break our fast with Zamzam. So the content of our knowledge will be pure and will be ever flowing, even if we see all the modernization around the Zamzam and the most beautiful buildings that are going up there. I'm turning to the next page. So there's a picture of some of our students of the MSO. We have a very vibrant MSO, and Dr. Tubbs always told me he really admires their energy and whatever they are, the ideas they come up with. So the program will benefit current academic students. There is also potential that many people can become chaplains. I spoke to the Sheikh Mustafa Atur. 7 people graduated as chaplains recently, but they are not accredited. Through udmercy, we could develop a chaplaincy program that is accredited, and some chaplains are earning $75,000 for prison chaplaincy. In hospitals, it could be very lucrative. At universities, more and more universities are employing chaplains. Many administrators of our mega mosque are approaching us to do a master's degree and a PhD in Islam. We also have those in the healthcare professions, and the 3 big automotive companies want some training, cultural sensitivity training. And then also the seniors, there's some good news to our seniors. There's a new book out that shows one of the great scientists or neurologists. He feels that a person's brain is most active from the age of 64 to 84. Some of you may think differently. But your brains are most active from age 64 to 84. Now if that's the case, it would be haram. It would be prohibited for us to let the memories of our elders and our seniors get wasted. So we would set up a program like the SOUL program to help them. We have some of our friends here who are working for the FBI and for other places. So we could also teach Islam to the FBI, the CIA, and we don't want them to go and call in Ayan Hirsi to Harvard to teach them Islam. She doesn't know Islam. She doesn't deserve to teach Islam. And so that's one of our goals also. Lastly, we can empower this program, strengthen this program through scholarships. I was very pleasantly surprised when someone emailed me from Wisconsin and they said they have about 5 scholarships available, they need a match. I went to the dean and the dean said, well, our provost already has 10 scholarships available. I phoned Rishi and Rishi said, well, I played with the idea. Yes, it is definite now. So if we have at least 20, Khalid Saifi said he will get about 5 scholarships of 1,500 each. And if we put all these scholarships and go to every mosque and say your communities could benefit first, I think we could have a very vibrant program. And where's our provost? I'm sure she'll be very happy about that, right? Let us say we get 200 scholarships throughout Cleveland, Ohio, Columbus, Toledo. These are many of the cities that are showing interest in that. So please don't wait for us. We need to reach a stage where you are not only participants in this program, we want you to become champions. We want you to become advocates. And I'm getting an indication from Ray that I need to end this. This is tax deductible, yet is zakatable. If you give your zakah, in fact, some scholars say zakah is permissible. If I give my own fatwa tonight, it's not permissible, it's mandatory. So zakah is mandatory to get Islam to the next level. So make sure, Reem also said this is, and I don't want to steal some of your words, Reem, there is not a want for this program, there's a need for the program. It's a necessity. Thank you for listening to us, and we hope, inshallah, we're going to launch the fund for the endowed scholarship very soon, and that 4 million or 5 million or 10 million will not be too difficult to obtain.
Okay, before we get to our keynote speaker, we're going to hear briefly from 2 students, and I think their perspective is important on this because they're engaged in the kind of work that we hope to continue engaging students in. And although we encourage intellectual freedom, we don't want them to disagree with anything that was said so far, so just keep that in mind. Haroon Imtiaz, where are you, Haroon? Are you here? Oh, there you are, okay. He is studying with Zaytuna College out in California. Zaytuna, you could say, is almost a parallel project, a sister project. It is the first liberal arts college founded and created by Muslims for Muslims here, and they're doing very exciting work, and it's an indication of this mushrooming that I think Imam Saleh talked about, that many of these great minds are thinking alike. So I think, Haroon, I will give this to you, and then bridging the gap with words.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. I'd like to begin in the name of God, the most merciful. Prayers of peace be upon His beloved messenger. It's really a privilege to be here. I want to thank our teacher and our imam for affording me this opportunity to say a few words on something which I think is extremely important to us as a human community. When I heard that an Islamic studies program had been launched here at the University of Detroit Mercy, I was very pleased. And even more so when I heard that this program was situated within the liberal arts department. I think it's very important for us to understand that, because a lot of times when people, they see the word Islam alongside the word liberal arts, they often misunderstand that relationship, or they don't even understand it at all. Because if we look historically, the liberal arts, and in particular the trivium, not so much the quadrivium, and I'm talking about the traditional meaning of the liberal arts. And so the trivium, which really constituted the 3 subjects of grammar, logic, and rhetoric, these 3 subjects were central to Muslims for centuries. There's actually a book written by Professor John Walbridge. It's called God and Logic, and it was written a couple years ago, and I think everyone should read it because it's a very fascinating read. And in that book, one of the things John Walbridge argues is that really prior to European colonization of the Muslim lands, prior to the point where they really came in and they thoroughly disrupted and really extirpated the madrasa system of the Muslims, prior to that period, the three subjects of grammar, logic, and rhetoric were the foundational subjects taught in all Muslim colleges throughout the world. And Walbridge goes even as far as saying is that these three subjects were focused on so heavily that oftentimes the Quran and the Hadith were even marginalized. And so that's a very interesting point and very important for us to note that, because traditionally our ulama and our scholars, they were extremely concerned with imparting people and their students with the proper tools to interpret and analyze scripture. Because really, if we're bereft of these fundamental tools, such as grammar, rhetoric, and logic, if we try to go into scripture and interpret what we think God is saying, then we can end up making some serious mistakes. And all we have to do is read St. Augustine on Christian doctrine, where he makes a really powerful argument for a strong grounding in grammar before even attempting to interpret the Bible. Because if you don't know what something like a conditional statement is, you can get into a lot of trouble just reading the Bible. So, just as some advice, I would say that we really need to revive these three subjects. They're extremely important to us, and I think really they can serve as a potential antidote to the misunderstandings of our religion. And when I mean grammar, you all are already doing this, and it's fantastic. I applaud you for that, is teaching Arabic language. There's no Islamic tradition without the Arabic language. It's really empty. Am I supposed to get off? I hope I'm not like sabotaging the show or something. But so I want to, and I'll just speed up the pace. But there are a few things I wanna give to you all as maybe some advice that you all can take. I'm actually the product of an Islamic studies program that's rooted in the liberal arts, and it's situated in Berkeley, California. It's called Zaytuna. And there are certain things that I picked up over the last couple of years, which I think are absolutely essential for other Islamic studies programs such as this to really embody and really inculcate. And really, without these, I really think we're going to miss the mark, and we're really not going to succeed as a Muslim community and as a greater human community. And so the mission statement of Zaytuna, and I'll paraphrase it, reads something like this, that they're trying to educate and prepare morally grounded, spiritual and intellectual leaders who are grounded in the Islamic scholarly tradition and also conversant with the cultural currents and the ideas that are shaping our society. And so for me, there are three things that are extremely important to me. I'll mention these three things and then I'll try to get out of here. And the first thing for me is we need to teach morality. And how do we do that? Well, we teach ethics. And if there isn't already an emphasis on this, I would suggest that programs like this need to emphasize ethics from the Islamic perspective and also the Western perspective. Because I've studied both, and I feel that they complement each other so spectacularly. And one without the other is just not going to work for our time. I mean, if we're reading Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics, which is one of the greatest books on ethics ever written, and then we're sidelining the works by great Muslim scholars who spent centuries and spent just as much time as the Western ethicists developing their ideas. So we have to respect both sides of the coin. And so, really, when I mean teach morals, teach ethics, because we need to be people of integrity. We need to be people who are ethically driven and ethically oriented. We need to be people who uphold the highest universals of human conduct. This is absolutely essential. The Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, he said that I was only sent to perfect noble character. That's what he said. And so if we don't get that part of the message, we don't get anything else. And we can see this illustrated in his prophetic life, where the first half of his prophetic career, which was approximately 12 years in the holy city of Mecca, he devoted entirely to instructing his companions and his followers within the basic teachings of the religion, and also within proper comportment with the Creator and the creation. So creed and character and creed, this was the beginning of the religion. The politics came after. The politics came in the second half of his life. And so really there's a divine wisdom here, because if we haven't cultivated ourselves and refined ourselves morally, when we enter into the political sphere, we're seriously gonna cause some havoc, right? Because people are now governed by their egos and their appetites. It's all about impressing people, and it's all about furthering our careers, and it's all about making a show. This is not what study was for our people traditionally. There's a hadith in which the Prophet, he mentioned that there will come a time where people will study for other than the sake of God. We're living in that time. We're witnessing these spectacular statements of our messenger. So teaching ethics is extremely important. And the second thing I want to emphasize is we need to ground students in the Islamic tradition. And for me, that means a couple things. Because a grounding in the Islamic tradition, that can be very vague and that can be broad. But for me, it's really, as students and as teachers and as supporters of this program, we need to respect the vastness of this tradition and really the sheer depth. That this is not a tradition of just blacks and whites. It's a very complex and sophisticated matrix, which cannot be reduced to just some simplistic codes of conduct or rituals or legal punishments, right? It's not just about getting rid of people's hands, right? And so as a community, we need to respect difference of opinion. There are different ways to look at this tradition. Really, I'm amazed. I'm looking out at the American Muslim community, and there are people that are literally fighting over within the religion itself. We're busy talking about all the external things that are coming from outside. We really have some internal problems to take care of. And it's really going to start by respecting difference of opinion, this whole sectarian dialectic that we've created. It's generating this partisan politics, which is doing so much harm to our communities, and it will never be beneficial to us. So for one, if you want to consider yourself grounded in the Islamic tradition, you have to respect difference of opinion and come humble. Be humble. I mean, you can't just spend 10 years, 5, 10, 15 years in the university and say, oh, we know the Islamic tradition, we can speak on it. That to me is just, it's arrogance. Our scholars traditionally, they spent their whole lives, they invested 50, 60, 70 years in distilling the truth of this tradition. And we want to come here and then we want to have a debate with just the bare minimum. It's just unbelievable to me. So for one, it's respecting difference of opinion, and two, it's not compromising the foundational teachings of the religion. I know our Imam, he mentioned Ayan Hirsi Ali. That's something as Muslims And as non-Muslims and as people who study the religion, we have to out front reject that type of ridiculousness. Because the preservation of our religion is at stake. And we cannot tolerate this. And now it may seem I sort of contradicted myself when I said that we have to respect difference of opinion, but also not tolerate certain heresies which enter into the religion. Well, in actuality, what I'm trying to say is that traditionally, difference of opinion within the Islamic tradition was only tolerated within the parameters of religious orthodoxy. So if someone comes and says, we want to start praying 4 times a day instead of 5, we're not going to tolerate that. That's absolutely ridiculous. And so that's the second thing. And the last thing I want to mention is that as an Islamic studies program, we need to remain conversant with the cultural currents and the ideas that are shaping our society. And I'm sure that this is something our Imam has mentioned a great deal. And so it's these big issues that are affecting us, like atheism and homosexuality and abortion and modern warfare and all these, this conundrum of ideas. And we need to be active voices in responding to this, because we don't want the Islamic narrative to be defined by people who are not grounded in the Islamic scholarly tradition. It's a great danger, because I grow really wary when I see people like Richard Dawkins and Sam Harris, and people actually take these guys seriously. They speak about Islam as if they're some type of experts, yet they haven't studied. They don't know the Arabic language. They haven't read the Quran. I've read Sam Harris's book, The End of Faith. He has a whole chapter in there called The Problem with Islam. The Problem with Islam. And you know what's in that chapter? It's a bunch of misquoted, decontextualized verses from the Quran that he's using to say that Islam is inherently evil. That's what it is. And he goes on so far as saying that these Muslims are such a big threat to us that we may need to launch a preemptive nuclear strike to get rid of these Muslims. And so this is the type of madness that we're living in. Can you believe that we have these type of people? So really fundamentalist secularists, to me, are just as dangerous in their beliefs and ideologies as so-called fundamentalist religious people. So we need to stay conversant with the discussions that are going out there. We don't want our narrative to be defined by people who don't know our tradition. And lastly, I'm going to conclude. Just something came to my mind while I was speaking. It's a poem by Robert Frost, and in this poem he says, "Some say the world will end in fire. Some say in ice. From what I've tasted of desire, I hold with those who favor fire. But if it had to perish twice, I think I know enough of hate to say that for destruction ice is also great and would suffice." So really, if we don't dispel these two evils of arrogance and ignorance by equipping ourselves with the proper tools and the proper knowledge, we're really in for an ugly future. So I want to thank our Imam once again. Sorry if this was too long, and I'll just hand it over. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. This is a part of this job that really stinks because you're getting up and hinting it, but this is one of our future keynote speakers, probably maybe next year. We should probably get his number for next year. But this is, Haroon offers a wonderful, I've heard Haroon speak. I believe you were at the Zaytuna fundraiser maybe a year ago as well. I think I may have heard you speak to us then, possibly. But the power of what education can do for the community, and someone like Brother Haroon, you can see the influence he could have potentially within the Muslim community, but also as a voice to bring out what we have to offer to the wider society. So I think it's just Zohair, thank you so much for really a wonderful reflection and a demonstration, an embodiment of really what we're about with education. Proof that education is more than learning a career, and we think of it as learning a career. This is a thing that's going to, make me some money, get me married, and that's that, or whatnot. But it's more than that. We're going to change the schedule around just a little bit because we are pushing up against Iftar, and I can see when the Muslims look at me, they're seeing drumsticks and things like that already. So we're going to move the keynote speaker, and then Sister Reem, who's another student who'd like to share a little bit of her experience. They will speak to us while we're eating after we've broken the fast. So I'm going to ask actually Brother Dawud Zwink to join us right now. Brother Dawud is really, it's funny, when I was preparing for this, I Googled his name, and it was fascinating because there's really nothing about him personally out there. It's all about the things that he does. He is the embodiment of a community activist. He has been, and I'm going to hit a few minor accomplishments here that I'm going to be quiet because he's doing the fundraising, so I need to give him as much time as possible. He's been a national leader in the various Muslim communities here in North America for a long time, here and in Canada. He's most recently a consultant to the Muslim Observer Weekly and a community developer. This is very interesting. He has been working with Scouts Canada in the Greater Toronto area. My son is in Boy Scouts now, and I was very excited to find out that in general there's a growing Muslim presence in that movement. He is currently serving as the executive director of the Michigan Muslim Community Council, which is based in Royal Oak. He's a past vice president of the Islamic Society of North America. Just a long list of roles, all of them focused on community service, which I think is really remarkable. And service is supposed to be selfless, so the fact that I didn't find out where he was born or what his favorite color is says something about the focus of his life, or the focus of his life has been. So, Brother Dawud, do you want to join me up here? And once we reach the 10 million mark, we will be able to eat. So.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعليه وصحبه أجمعين وبعد. MashaAllah, there's been very many wonderful things said this evening already, and I keep looking at the crowd to see where the money is going to come from. It's not my responsibility to give a speech. I always do my best to give encouragement, and I can tell you my next younger brother, I come from a fairly large family, but my next younger brother spent his life in academia in Oklahoma, and at one point was vice president of Northwestern University, and I was working for the State Historical Museum in Oklahoma. And I could see him up here with the UMD leadership. Was developing a sense of what his career has been about, because he's involved with development work now, so he should be doing this instead of me. First of all, I'd like to take a vote and see if everybody agrees that it's very appropriate for keynote speakers to always be the first one to make the contribution or the pledge. Maybe not, because I've had to be the keynote speaker myself. However, this evening we do have some serious work to do in a short period of time. I was blessed to have a few minutes with Dr. Mahmoud Hai before the proceedings started this evening. And I've had the pleasure and benefit of working shoulder to shoulder with Imam Ahmed Saleh now for some time in the larger work of Muslims here in Michigan. And I understand why he's passionate about this work. and why it makes sense for this new Islamic Studies program that is presently authorized as a minor program, but we're expecting it, and I know that it's in the plans to see it grow into not only a major program at UMD, but also an influential program, both nationally and internationally. And that's why we've come together here this evening. Dr. Mahmoud shared just a little bit about some of the work that he's been involved with during his lifetime. He just flew back in with his wife from India, arriving at 3 o'clock this afternoon, so that he could be here this evening, and his family is here with him also. For any of you that travel internationally, you must have had personal experience with jet lag. So why would he do that? It's a reflection of the value and the importance of institution building. And in fact, he talked about how he and his family in India have invested in creating a hospital in a part of India where they didn't have health services for about 500-mile radius, if I got the mileage correct. Now, that may seem like a different frame of reference from what we are engaging here this evening, but in fact it's very much the same. Because for any community to succeed, it needs the basic ingredients. And from our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and from the tradition of the Jesuits, and this tradition is famous around the world, the Jesuit commitment to intellectualism, to seeking knowledge and to applying it in very pragmatic ways. There are connections, and it makes sense. But it always happens because someone was ready to stand up and say, this is possible, and then, based on their contribution and their sacrifices, open the door, create the way for other people to join and benefit from the blessings. Imam Ahmed Salih included in the corporate packet of information the very famous passage from the Quran, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the value of planting one seed that brings forth 10 stalks, and on each stalk, 7 stalks, and on each stalk there are 100 grains. And as I've worked in fundraising in many different places, more than sharing that understanding with other people, it's deepened my own understanding of the importance of planting the seeds and not looking for the harvest the next day. This work requires a sense of destiny and understanding of the importance and the personal and familial and community benefits that come from making those investments. Our beloved Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, taught us that the greatest place where we can make the investments of money and time is in education, because it's through education that we raise the kind of ethical and moral men and women that we just heard being spoken about. I believe that's the vision and the mission of UMD. So tonight, I'm going to call upon everyone here. Realize that for the Muslims during this time of Ramadan, this is the best and most beneficial time to make a contribution, to make an investment. During any time of the year, we have this promise of multiplication from Almighty God. But during Ramadan, the end of that passage in the Quran, it says, and even more. God can multiply this even more. We're in that time when miracles happen. And whatever we give with the right intention for the pleasure of God has been promised to be returned to us in this life and even more importantly in the next. So this evening we have the obligation and the opportunity collectively to raise $200,000. And in traveling across North America and internationally, I've always seen that in the beginning, the people that make the first donation set the tone for the rest of the evening. And in fact, when I traveled in the Khalij, in the Gulf area, in fact, when we traveled, we would go to the key people and we would talk to them, and on the basis of the commitment that they made, then we saw other community members, almost like a hierarchy, would line up their own contributions. Now, we don't have the ways and the means to do that this evening, but we're offering a chance to someone to take the largest amount of blessings this evening with the first pledge. Now let me test the audience this evening. Is there anyone here this evening that has the means and has the desire to really put in the cornerstone? And the university is ready to receive this in checks or with credit cards, even in installments. And they have a matching program. So it's a tremendous opportunity. How many are there here tonight that will show their understanding the value and the importance of this work by offering or pledging $50,000 to start the evening? That's a very good sign. I didn't see anybody faint and fall on the floor. I'm just testing because I don't know the capacity of people that are here. I'm assuming, possibly incorrectly, that the students don't have $50,000 to invest, but they might. I don't know their background. Does anyone have $50,000 that they're ready to offer for this important and this good work as an investment in this life and the next? Now, if you're shy, you can write it and send it to the podium, or you may be thinking about it and checking your bank balances, so you have time. Is there anyone here that would like to pledge $25,000 this evening? You know, at $25,000, it would only take four people, and I don't think that the officials from UDM or Imam Ahmed Sully would complain if people topped it off with their own contributions. Does anyone have $25,000 to invest for your future, for your family's future, for the future of relationships between Christians and Muslims and other communities of faith, in the interest of scholarship, in the interest of truth, over fabricated history? $10,000, $25,000. We have one, $25,000.